We're on Nun Dalet Amud Beis, I'm sorry, and the second line is in Mu Mishnah. And we've had a whole series of Mishnayos, and as Murph pointed out, yes, they dealt with donkeys and camels and different kinds of animals. And the listing here is actually, a number of the Mishnayos talked about things that an animal can go out with, such as saddles and covers and other things. And then we had one Mishnah that animals cannot go out with. And now we have the final Mishnah about what animals may not go out with. This talks about certainly some chamorim and some other animals, mostly chamorim. So just to tell you what the reason is for most of the items here, according to Rashi, Rashi says the reason for most of these items that the animal cannot go out with on Shabbos is because we're afraid it may fall off. And if it detaches and falls off in Rosh Hashanah, you, the owner, will come running after it and you'll carry it in Rosh Hashanah. Okay? The Rambam has a bit of a different approach. He says that many of these items are asur because they're not really considered a tachshit. They're not considered either a garment or a decoration or an adornment, but rather simply carrying, because the animal does not really need this and get away with it. So they're really, but Rashi says the reason is because all these items here are tentative, they can't fall off, and you're so concerned about the actual item, it's a specialized piece of equipment, that if it falls off, you won't want to abandon it. So you'll end up coming lasuya, you'll come to lasuya, you'll carry it in Rosh Hashanah. Okay? So let's go through and see what these animals actually are. So we had seen that if you have a merdas, anybody remember what a merdas is? The saddle blanket, like a blanket under the saddle. So we're just starting. Nun Dalet Amud Bet, Mishnah at the top of the page, second line. So we had a Mishnah earlier on Daf Nun Bet Amud Bet that said that a chamor can go out with a merdat when it's tied down. Okay, right. And in fact, the Gemara said down that it was tied down on Erev Shabbos. You tied it on Erev Shabbos, which A means it was tied well and it's not going to fall off because you can't really make a tight kesher on Shabbos. And second of all, it means the animal really needed it. We saw the fact that chamorim sometimes were considered cold even in August, right? In the summertime. So if you tied this down on Erev Shabbos and it wasn't going to slide anywhere, the animal could go out. However, this Mishnah says the exact converse of this. Ein chamor yotzei merdat bizman she'eina kshura lo. If it's not tied on, and it was not tied on before Shabbos, not tied down now, the chamor cannot go out with a saddle. Doesn't mean you can't put the saddle blanket on, but the chamor can't go out for a walk in Rosh Hashanah. Why? Either according to Rashi, we're afraid it's going to fall off, right? Or according to Rambam, you'd have to say it's really not needed, because if you needed it, you would have put it on yesterday and tied it down, right? So that's the first case. V'lo bezug afa pishu pakuk. A zug is a bell, and pakuk means it's stuffed up. So you can understand why the animal can't go out with a bell on Shabbos, because what's it going to be doing? It's going to be ringing the bell. It's going to be making sounds. It's going to be mashmiya kol. But why can't you go out with a bell that's plugged up? And you stuff it with cotton or stuff it with some kind of stuffing. What would be the matter with that? So I'm sorry? It might fall out. It might fall out. It's not needed. Actually, in this case, the Gemara is actually going to discuss and says the case is it looks like I think you're taking it to market. Okay, in other words, you're going off to market. You want, so they had certain bells maybe to identify the animals. Maybe you could find the animals in the stalls, whatever it was. So this looked.
So would that be Maris Ayin?
So it actually is a case of Maris Ayin, which is really somewhat unusual because there's really nothing wrong with going out with the bell. If the animal went out with the bell, it looks like it's only a rabbinic prohibition at best. What's the concern? The concern is it might fall off, and if it falls off, you may have to go for it, or whatever it is. So it's a Maris Ayin even on a rabbinic prohibition. But you're right, Jack, that's correct. It's an unusual kind of case where you have a Maris Ayin on something that's only rabbinic.
Maris Ayin is generally speaking only D'oraita.
Yeah, Maris Ayin is what afraid people say you're doing an Aveira. So I guess, it may not be the only case of Maris Ayin, but that's only the Rabbanan, but this would be one example. Okay. But this clearly would be a case of Maris Ayin, so it's actually good for you, Jack, that you picked that up. So, V'lo b'sulam shebetzavaro, so we have our
Sulam is a ladder.
Sulam is a ladder, so we have our handy-dandy picture book here. This is a little donkey that's got this ladder type of piece of thing on the side of its head. Okay?
Yeah. And he's schlepping it?
It's tied to its head. So it's meant so it doesn't bend its head over to bang itself. Or in fact, it looks almost here like there was a sore.
It's like Archie's cast, that sort of thing, to protect it.
Exactly. There's the sore here, looks like near the knee. right? Or the leg, and this is meant so that the animal doesn't turn over and gnaw at it and make it infected. So how do they translate it?
He says a ladder, but then in brackets he goes shaped yoke. So yoke is where you tie two animals together.
Okay, so
Maybe that's a different gear.
No, a yoke can be used to tie an animal to a plow.
No, a yoke. Yeah, you put two animals together.
I'm saying you could also yoke an animal to a plow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
also a yoke.
Okay.
So let's wait till we get to the Gemara. The Gemara is going to explain. We'll see if Sansino fits into the Gemara as well. Okay, but as you see, even if it is this kind of protective thing, it is a ladder. It is a lattice kind of piece.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a ladder so the donkey can see and the donkey can hear and the donkey can move.
tie it on pretty well, I would imagine.
There's
Right.
a picture there of
This
blemish.
is of the blemish. I think this is it on the
I
leg.
see. Okay.
Okay, you want to match up your cast to it and see if it works.
No, I'm just asking.
Well, if you have again, in modern day, if you have a dog, I don't have one, but I've seen people have an injury, let's say, and they don't want it to go at it, so they have a kind of collar they put on and sticks out like
so it'll
this,
scratch
and the
himself.
dog can't,
Correct. Yeah, there you go.
So what could you do? But if you had a dog like that on Shabbos, I guess you better keep him in the house.
Well, we don't have Rosh Hashanah where we live. We have a neighbor.
Okay.
So that would be an example.
In
Right?
New York,
If we
in
did.
New York, you wouldn't have a dog because you're so firm. You wouldn't have a dog.
You're right.
Right, correct. There you go. Okay, so that's the second example, and the next one is velo b'ritzur shebaraglo. Ritzur shebaraglo is some kind of strap that's on the foot of the animal, and why is there ritzur shebaraglo? I'm not sure, and I'm not sure I understand this picture. The picture seems to show a donkey. This is the same the donkey up here that has some kind of bandages around its leg. So I'm not quite sure what here. Okay, I know what it is. So the Gemara actually discusses that the animal has short legs. That's what it is. The animal has short legs. Some kind of strapping. The animal has short legs, and the legs tend to bang together. So they strap down the leg to make sure to keep the leg straight. This may have been a growing young animal that the legs weren't fully developed, and whatever it was. Well, the Gemara will discuss maybe these topics. Right, correct. But once again, it may unravel outside, and therefore you may come to, because it's a specialized kind of strap that you need to go into Shoppers Drug, home health care or something, right? So you'd want to pick it up, and you wouldn't want to leave it lying around. Okay. Yeah, sure.
So that's actually that's a doraita.
Oh, it's like
If you carry it, it would be the right. The concern is that it did not that you're carrying it, that you might carry it.
Right. So
since they don't bang.
So the gzeira is the animal. You cannot go out with the animal like this. In case the animal drops it, you may come to carry it. But it's only the raisa if you're carrying it.
Right. No, what I'm saying is it's a siyag on a doraita, not a siyag on a dorabana.
Right. Correct. Yes. Right. Yeah. As opposed to the case of the bell.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong. It does not look like the bell was going to fall off. It was more that people might think that you're going to market.
Right.
You're doing nothing wrong. You ain't going to market. You're going to shul. Right. But this is what they might have. So that's more of a Mara sign. Correct. Yes. So all of these are meant to be protective. And once again, the protection, according to Rashi, in many of these cases, is the fact that you will tend to be carrying it. You might come to carry it if it falls off.
That sounds logical, because otherwise, it sounds like many of them are things that are really good for the animal.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
and
correct.
It's only like you said, Rashi said.
But it happens to be based upon the industry standards of the day. There were concerns these would fall off.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So you can probably think of examples of where you had to put something on. It might come off, it might not come off, and so forth. Not put on fully. Okay.
Right.
This looks like a sleeve.
It looks like a sleeve, but I believe what it is, it's called a ritzua, which ritzua is a strap, so it's some kind of strapping they put around it. Like think of the wrapping you see around trees, for example. Okay, we'll come to the Gemara very quickly. It's okay.
Sorry.
Right. Okay. So where are we up to? So next one is about tarnagolim. Now we're leaving the chamor and going to rooster chickens. V'ein tarnagolim yotzim b'chutim v'lo b'ritzur shebaragleihem. Now tarnagolim chutim. I'm sorry.
Do we skip something?
Do we skip the rams?
No. It's okay.
No, we didn't get to the rams yet. Before the rams,
I'm sorry.
we have two ritzuos. One is a ritzuah for the animal,
I got
for the
mixed up.
donkey, and then it's going to be a ritzuah for the
I
tarnagolim.
got mixed up.
So the tarnagolas can't go out with chutim or some kind of strings that they put onto the animal, And the reason that the strings were there may have been to identify the animal, it's not clear. V'lo b'ritzua shebragleihem, and this ritzua was meant to tie the legs together so that it restrained the chicken from kicking and breaking things. They have, these long chicken feet. Right, these skinny chicken feet with these long claws, so they would run around and just peck and kick and all those kind of things. So as a result, when they tied the legs together and the chicken went out in the house, so then it was restrained from knocking things together. So you can't put this on because this may come off and you'll come to run after the chicken and carry it and so forth. So Shabbos is a case where you'd have to keep the chicken more restrained in the house or in the yard. So all of these cases are similar. That's about the chutim. And I said once again, I think the chutim is more about identifying what whose chicken is whose. So you've got the chicken with the red bindle. Okay, here we go. Here's a picture of our chicken picture. The chicken's got these ribbons tied around its legs, and the next one it's got the 2 feet shackled together. Okay, or roped together with a ritzua. Make sense? Can you see the picture? Picture page? Okay, good. Now, moving right through the pictures here, or moving right through the mission, I should say. Now, the next one is, Zacharim refers to rams. We think we said this once upon a time. Zachar obviously is males, but it's used specifically to refer to male rams, as in like the ram's horn, right? So many times Mishnah talks about the ovel or talks about the Zachar, which was a specific ram's horn as opposed to an ibex or a straight kind of horn and so forth. So these are male sheep, these are rams, okay? And they had this wagon that they put they had a wagon of some sort they put under the fat tail, the tail fat.
I don't know how I looked this up. The rams, certain rams have a fat, like a tail. It's called a fat tail. Google it. It's called a fat tail ram.
It's a fat tail.
It's a tail that's
an
fat.
actual tail, but
it's like a fat.
Has more fat than the usual.
You think of a little tail, right?
Yeah.
But these is something called a fat tail ram.
You thought oxtail soup was so good.
And they would talk about the Chumash they talk about the fat tail.
It's very thick and heavy and it drags on the earth.
Google it.
I'm saying were they rare?
So this was apparently the kind of ram that they had around and they were used to,
in Israel.
right? I don't understand
So
Israel.
why would this not be
What can't you
fair?
do?
So this I don't understand actually. So actually the Rambam actually says, the Rambam points out that he actually saw this in Egypt. So it's not something that only existed in time of the Gemara, the Mishnah, but the Rambam says that he saw this himself. Where does he write it here? Right. Umin hakvasim min sheishlam al yogdola. Like Archie said, there's a type that has this big fat
tail.
Alya's tail, right? The tail fat, to be specific. The fat tail. Alya is the fat on the tail. Kamo hakvasim hanimtsoim b'mitzrayim sheishlam al yod gedolot kvedot kechela gadol migufan. So the tail is as fat as their bodies. The osim lo tam al alayot agalot k'lo shlo yitchachachu al aretz v'yafshitu or alehem.
They had like a little wagon that could keep the
It's
tail off the ground.
translated as a wagonette.
Yes, so here's here's our picture. Can we see the picture? This is the picture of the ram over here with a little wagonette. It's little looks like it's a shopping cart underneath the tail.
So why would that not be?
So why would it not be
Choresh?
Choresh?
That's wheels.
Yeah,
Wheels.
No. Without the wheels, wouldn't it be choresh?
The tail?
It's making it further on the ground.
That's the ram's problem. The ram's going to have to do al-chait. We're not responsible to stop animals from doing averos. They rip the food out of the land. They're eating. They're harvesting.
Yeah, but they're not. We're not talking about eating here. We're talking about just because it's doing choresh.
So let me give you two responses. First of all, I don't think we're responsible to stop animals from doing anything that's a malacha. Right? We cannot cause the animal to do choresh. We can't use the animal for plowing. If the animal walks and plows by itself, that's the animal's
That's chamaro. We have to make sure that they rest also.
No, that's correct. We have to make sure they rest and don't work for us. We don't. Once again, we've pointed this out. There's the animals that graze, the sheep that graze in the pasture, the cows that graze in the pasture, or horses. They're eating.
Right.
They're ripping ground. They're harvesting.
That's not a problem.
Well, that is the second issue, and that's what I think more directly is. I don't know that this is choresh. It's just a fat tail. The issue really about this wagonette is not about preventing choresh. It's about preventing the tail from getting lacerated and ripped.
That's why
That's what the Rambam writes. When he sees in Mitzrayim, they had these wagons because they were so fat, these tails, that they were afraid lafshida ta'or, that the skin would get scraped off.
You get affected or whatever.
No, I don't know. The question you have to ask yourself is, how did the Almighty build an animal that couldn't fend for itself? I don't know. You'd have to say that people must have inbred these rams, and it was for whatever the tail fat is, and maybe we made the problem. Hakadosh Baruch Hu didn't make it this way. That's the real question. Right? But whatever it is, these are domesticated animals. There's a type of ram, and the other question that someone should be asking.
Fat-tailed rams in Chumash. I'll look it up for you.
What is it in Hebrew?
I can't remember.
Alyo's fat, tail fat.
It's mentioned
we're saying in the
somewhere.
Chumash we have the word.
When
Chayla
Yaakov gives the brachas or something to the 12 tribes, somewhere he says you're a fat.
I hear you're saying the English translation is fat.
If we have time at the end, we'll give a Chumash out and we'll look it out. Okay, let's put it on the side. Okay.
Fair enough.
Now,
so you can't.
So the other question that should be asked is this poor ram. If you don't let the ram walk out with this wagonette, it's going to get hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. Okay, so keep it in. But if you let it go out with the wagonette, apparently it was going to detach itself, and you'd end up, I don't know, carrying it, moving it, fixing it, getting it across the Rosh Hashanah.
It's the same with all of these. Many of these are to protect the animal, but they're saying you can't do it on Shabbos.
Correct, because you're concerned, you're responsible for the animal, and you understand. This is clearly a specialized piece of equipment that you'd have to go to Shoppers Drug Mart, Home Care, because they're the ones who it's just like going for a wheelchair of some sort, or some kind of assistive movement. So that's that example. Okay. So this is about the Zecharim. Zecharim ein Zecharim yotzim ba'agala shetachat al yashalahem. That's the Zecharim, the rams. Ve'ena Rachelim, the Rachel is the ewe, is the female lamb, the female sheep. Yotzot chanunot. They don't go out chanunot. We'll have to talk about what exactly chanunot is. Okay, we'll talk about that in the Gemara. Gives a couple of interpretations what it means chanunot. Okay, whether it means putting on some kind of compress, or whether it means putting something in their nose to allow them to get rid of any parasites in there. We'll see that. Okay, so hold on. V'eno egel yotze begimon. Okay, gimon is, I guess, for lack of a better term, the Gemara understands this as a training yoke. Okay, so the picture here is, here we go. Training yoke.
To get them used to it.
So they put a little yoke on this little calf. I'll show it all around. See this thing on the bottom? There's the big cow and this little calf. And this was meant to allow the calf to get used to having something on its neck.
Right.
So even while it was a calf, they were training this calf to get used to the fact there would be something, the yoke is on the neck, it pushes the head down. And that's kind of very uncomfortable. Anyone who's ever had to wear a neck brace, for example, or something, or a tie, for example, all those kind of things. It's not on your neck, but I'm saying, imagine. Right, so all of these things that we have to put on that were very, very difficult for us. Imagine if you are going to be a cow or an ox or whatever kind of animal you are that you're going to have to pull a yoke. Trying to put it on when you're fully grown is going to be more complicated, right? So trying to tame a bronco.
This is chinuch.
Right, correct. So there's nothing wrong with that, and this was a way. But the problem was, what would happen if it fell off on outside of Rosh Hashanah, according to Rashi? Okay, so that's the egel. And v'lo para ba'ora kupar. Okay, let me tell you what the ba'ora kupar is. This was they would protect the udders of the cow, and a kupar is translated as a hedgehog. Okay.
It's not, but whatever.
What is it? It's not a hedgehog?
No, it doesn't.
It says hedgehog.
I know, but I don't think they had. No, I don't think they had.
So
that's
some sort of
animal, whatever.
Some kind of animal that had a very tough skin.
Right.
Okay, and according to the way Rashi interprets it, it was a skin that had some kind of needles on it. So it's the equivalent of, like, they didn't have porcupines in Europe; they had hedgehogs. Okay.
This is Israel.
But this is Israel, right. So they had some other kind of animal that was very similar. And what were they concerned about? So actually, Rashi and Tosfos, the Gemara we're talking about, the Rashi and Tosfos have a discussion what they were concerned about. According to Rashi, they were concerned about leeches that would jump up on the udder to suck out the milk or suck the blood off the udder because the udder was hanging low.
What's that got to do with Shabbos? That's why
they protected it. And Tosu says, well, that's not the right word, and even if they jump up, so what? They're really not going to hurt the cow. It's just a little leech. Like, how much trouble is it really going to be? So why are we protecting the whole udder? So Tosu says actually that they protected the kind of species that they wrapped around the udder was to protect it from being attacked by these other kind of rodent animals, whatever they were, hedgehogs, who knows what whatever it was. They wrapped the skin around it to dissuade the other animals from drawing the milk out from the udder, scaring the animal, whatever it was.
You know how to say a badger in Hebrew in Israel? I don't know how to say.
Maybe it was a badger.
No, because
there are badgers in Israel. Yes,
absolutely.
Right.
My dog was attacked.
I don't know.
By a badger in Israel. So
I don't know, but you know what? Once again, I'm sure someone can look up ancient animals in Israel, whether they had hedgehogs or anything similar.
When you need them.
There you go. Okay. Also, Professor Felix was actually the person who preceded Professor Slifkin, who really did the research about all these ancient types of botany and animals and so forth. And he identified them pretty well. Okay. So go back.
You have his book?
He wrote many books. I don't have them though. I once saw it. I don't have it. Right, but he actually, more important than the books, is he actually did the research.
Yeah, no, but
He's a scientist.
I understand, but I just look at the books because I don't know what
Okay, all right. Anyways, well, maybe we'll try to look it up. I don't know. Bottom line is you get a general gist, and once again, here we go. Here, this is a last picture for today, folks. You can see here is the udder, and it's wrapped. The teats are wrapped around with some kind of protection, some kind of skin, leather kind of skin with some kind of looks needles or protrusions or bony plates or something like that to protect whatever kind of bad animal is going to be junking onto it. Okay, so this is about where we up to v'lo parabar kupar, and the last one is v'lo b'rtzua shebein kaneha, and you can't have a cow go out with a strap or a rope that's between the karnayim, and this Rashi says is not about falling off. This Rashi says is about being a masoi. This is the exception to the rule. It's really not a decoration. It does not need to decorate. It really was more something that you probably yoink the para, and as a result, that's not considered a tachshit, and therefore the animal would be considered the animal's carrying something for you that you could want to use as utilitarian. And the Mishnah ends off, and the next line of the Mishnah is going to be the topic of all this agadata that we're about to get, which is going to be towards the bottom of this Amud itself. Paraso Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Haisiyotzer Bertzor Sheben Karneha. The cow of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Everybody remember Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? Where do you know this name from?
Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah.
Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Right, he became the Rosh Hashiva. He lives after Churban Abayis. Right, so this is once again in the reconstruction after Churban Abayis. He becomes Rosh Hashiva when Rabbi Gamliel was deposed. So his cow, and we'll see actually from the Gemara, it wasn't actually his cow. Okay, well that's part of it. It's going to open the Agadah. It says parato, correct? It says parato.
Sounds like his.
Yes, it is. So you got to wait for the Agadah. You see exactly what it means, and Agadah will make more sense. Okay, parato shel Elazar ben Azariah hayta yotzer shbertzor sheben. His cow would go out with this ritzua between the horns, and shelo bertzon chachamim. The chachamim were not very happy with this, so he did not get the approval. He did not get the stempel of certification from the rabbinic board. Okay, so that's meant to be a support that you can't do it, even though his cow did it. Right now, you're going to, of course, ask, how could he let his cow do it? Right? That's going to be the opening why it really wasn't his cow, because it could never be. If the rabbis wouldn't let him do it, why would he brook authority?
He says, "Because I'm the Rosh."
No, but you see,
was this before or after he was Rosh Hashiva?
It's not that important. You'll see from where the Gemara twists it. Okay. So actually, the real question is going to be the age of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah in this whole story, but we'll come to that even when we get to that Agadah. Right. Okay, so let's go to the Gemara. So the Gemara says, "My time." So the first Gemara's question is a very short question, right? My time. What's the reason? Kedamron, like we said. So Rashi explains, we're talking about why can you not go out with a saddlecloth on the chamor that's not tied down. So the Gemara simply tells you that we talked about that in the previous Mishnayos, that if you didn't tie it down Erev Shabbos, you're showing that it really did need it to be a malbush. This is more ad hoc, and not only is it ad hoc, but it may fall off. So it's not needed for the chamor, and more importantly, it'll fall off. Next piece from the Mishnah. V'lo bezug, all these pieces are pretty short. V'lo bezug af b'yishu pakuk, and you can't go out with a bell. The animal can't go out with a bell, even if it is plugged up. It's not going to ring. Why? Says the Gemara, Mishum demechse kamanda asa lechinga. It looks like someone is going on to the shuk, says Rashi, and they hang the bell around it. Okay. To, I guess, announce it or something. V'lo b'sulam shebetzavaro. This is this ladder, and we had a machlokas, looks like, between Sansino and Art Scroll, who's going to be the real interpretation. So Rav Huna Beilua, the Rav Huna from Lua, the house of Lua. Lamai avdile. Why did they do this? Lehecha de isle maka, where there was some kind of wound. Lo hadar chayich be, that the animal would not turn. Hadar would turn around, turn its head. Chayich be would like scratch at it or bite at it. Okay, so they would, actually Beilua, my mistake, Beilua is not the town, Beilua means it's near the lechi is the chin, the jaw, right, the jaw.
Bandage or bar under the jaw.
Right. So therefore, what did Sansino say this thing was?
It says here, a ladder, and then in brackets it goes shaped yoke around its neck.
Right. So to the extent that it restricts its movement, it's a yoke, yes.
Yeah.
It's not a yoke that's meant to carry a burden.
No.
So Sansino's saying the same thing.
Oh, okay.
They're just saying something around its neck that's attached to its neck.
Right,
or something,
correct.
Right?
A yoke is a restraining device. Right. The reason that you put for example, the reason you put a yoke on is you want to be able to put something onto the animal. You want to be able to control the animal, so you put a yoke around the neck.
Yeah.
If the animal goes too far, you pull the neck up. Animal's not very happy. The animal stops. Okay, next. The lo b'ritzua shebraglo, says the Gemara, why you can't put the ritzua around the raglo? This is about the animal. The avid le gizra, that this was, gizra says Rashi, this was a short-legged animal, and the legs would knock against each other. So they made some kind of ritzua, some kind of fat straps, and they would put it around the parsos haregel, around the hoofs, where they would, so that they would bang together. I saw somewhere that someone said it's actually in case there was a split, like almost like your cast left the parsa, the bottom of the leg began to split or wasn't developing correctly. They actually kind of taped it together like a splint. Okay, so this was a young developing animal. Maybe it slipped or something like that. So whatever it is, so these are all needed, but the concern was it might fall off. What's the next thing that we have here? The ein hatarnagolim yotzim b'chutim. Okay, the Tarnagolim can't go with chutim. The avdulei simna kechid lo lichlafe. So the Gemara says that they would make certain signs. You had red bindle around your feet of your Tarnagolis. I had blue bindlach. We had different kinds of colors. This way we didn't, how can you tell the difference between one chicken and another chicken? Right? Only another chicken can tell, right? So I guess chamorim they could identify, in larger animals they could tell, but chickens are chickens. How long is even the lifespan of a chicken? Who knows? I don't know.
Well, maybe the bigger animals were branded, actually.
It's possible. It's possible.
As opposed to, you would need a bindle.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard to identify the chickens in some format. So also chickens, I think, I'm trying to remember, the chickens you're eating, how old are they, if you eat chicken?
3 or 4 months.
Yeah, for less than half a year.
Weeks.
6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah.
White chicken? 6 weeks.
Yeah, they feed them.
I raised them. What do you mean do I know
6 weeks when I was in kibbutz.
I don't know about the kibbutz, but they are the most efficient transformers of grain into meat. Chickens.
Right.
Unreal. Okay?
So the lifespan of a chicken is how long?
Well, I'm not sure. If you left them alone, they probably could live a couple of years.
They give eggs.
Right. So whatever it is, so
not 20 years.
Talking about broilers.
Okay. So all I'm saying is that the first of all, the lifespan is shorter than chamorim, probably. Okay. They're smaller the animal, the shorter the lifespan as a rule. Those are our exceptions. And second of all, it was hard to identify one chicken from another chicken. So therefore, they had this as a way of identifying that. So once again, the concern was that it may come off. This was not meant to be fully tight, right? You needed to probably remove it before you shechted the chicken or processed the chicken or transferred or sold it, Right, there was a market for these things. So that's the ritzua. The next one is
That was a chut.
That was the chut. V'lo b'ritzua. This is the ritzua, not for the chamor. This is the ritzua for the chickens. The avdilei ki echad lo l'tavrei moneh. They tied the two legs together. L'tavrei is l'shpor. Tovar is shavar. Tuf and shin switch. Moneh or kalim. They didn't go around breaking things in the marketplace or out in the street.
For sure, I'm learning a little bit in Baba Kama,
Right.
and one of the questions in Shane Veregel is what happens if your chicken knocks over this and that with its legs and all that.
Yeah.
Chati
nezek shvoros. It kicks up pebbles, and the pebbles go flying. Okay, good. So so these were real hazards, and therefore you wanted to reduce your liability. And the next one says the Gemara, this is about the wagonette. V'ena zacham yotzim ba'agala. What was that? Why was that? Ki hechid lo lechamton alaiso. Alaiso is the alya, the tail. Lechamton, says Rashi, means it's not going to scrape. Yilku b'slayim v'trashim. It's not going to scrape on stones or other hard kinds of surfaces. Okay, so it really wasn't a problem of making ditches. It more was a concern that there were imperfections in the ground, there were rocks sticking out, there were thorns sticking out, and this would become lacerated or injured. The next thing is v'en rechilim yotzis chanunos. So I didn't say what chanunos are.
No.
Okay? So the Gemara gives a couple of answers. Look at the story time. Yosef Rav Acha bar Ula kamed Rav Chisda. Rav Acha bar Ula was sitting in front of Rav Chisda. V'Yosef v'kamar, and he sat and he explained to him what exactly is chanunos. Okay, so the first interpretation one: Mishah shegozim osa, from the moment that they shear the sheep, and the sheep is now left with very little insulation. So tomnin la ezek b'shem, and they take some kind of cloth or compress and they put it into oil. Or manichem osa padachta, and they put it on its forehead. This is like warm oil. They would put it on the forehead of the sheep, kadei shlotistanin, and it shouldn't be cold. So some kind of the initial shock of shearing all this wool off, and the first couple of hours it looks like until the sheep gets reacclimated to the environment, they would put this warm compress of oil, which is I guess some kind of ameliorant, onto the forehead to keep the sheep from going into shock, cold, so forth and so on. So that's what it means. The animal could not go out with this compress on its head on Shabbos, because what may happen, it may fall off. It's not really put on that carefully, not put on that tightly. It's meant to be removed. So wait. So who says this? So Rav Yacha bar Ula is saying this in front of Rav Chisda. This is what chanunos mean, and you get the feeling that where the word chanuna comes from the word chen. We're helping out the sheep, right? Because none of these words here look like chen here. It's ezek, shemen, padachta, right? So Amalei Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda said, "Imkena sita mar ukva." You're treating the sheep like mar ukva. Mar ukva is the Rosh Galusa. You're treating the sheep as good as the exarch. You're treating the sheep as good as the president. You know, you're treating them like the rabbi, so to speak. So that can't be that's too good. That we don't do that. That's treating the sheep like a human being. Ella. So Yosef Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Kamed Rav Chisda or Kamed Rav Nachman. Either it's someone else sitting in front of the same Rav Chisda, or it's someone else sitting in front of Rav Nachman. V'Yosef Akamar, and he sat and he told them what exactly is the case here. It's a similar kind of thing, but it's not when you shear the sheep, which happens fairly regularly, but B'Shah Shokoras Leiled, when the sheep crouches to give birth. Okay, this is the Rechelim. Tomim, it's Rechelim specifically. This is about you, so it's not Zacharim. So Tomni lo shnei azakim shel shemen. We take 2 compresses of oil, same kind of story. O manichin lo, we place the echad apadachta, one on its forehead, the echad al rechem, and one on the uterus, kadei shetitchamim, in order to make the sheep warm up. So we put this warm oil to allow the sheep to be able to proceed in labor to completion, so reduce some of the strain and so forth. So this is specifically for Rechelim. This is not going to be for male sheep. The first one looked like it could be for male sheep, so the crack that Rav Chisda gave back was, you're treating the sheep like Marukva, who's a male, who's a man. So Amalei Rav Nachman, so now you see it's by the way, it's Rav Nachman on Nusach, it's not Rav Chisda. So Amalei Rav Nachman, in Kana Sita, and you're treating him like Yalta. Yalta was Rav Nachman's wife. Who's Yalta?
I know.
Who's got a art scroll? Who's Yalta? Look, tell me who Yalta is.
Place in Russia.
So he's saying you're treating the sheep like my wife. Okay, you're treating. I don't treat my wife. I don't treat my wife that well.
Maybe when his wife was giving birth, maybe that's what they did to women.
Correct. So once again, it's the same kind of crack that basically says we don't really do this. Like, are you kidding? Do you really do this? Do the people out there? You're saying you're a shiva bach. You're saying the base measure. You're telling me this. Do you think the shepherds really do this? The sheep gives birth. Animals give birth in the wild.
Right.
Now, of course, not really true because sometimes the shepherds and the farmers had to be very involved in the birthing process. Right. There were issues, there were complications, and they had to assist and so forth. But no, this kind of thing of kind of warming up the sheep because it's going into labor. That's warm oil. That's too much. Okay. So, imkena sita yalta, you say you've made the sheep like Yalta, my wife, okay? So once again, it's a put down, of course, to the response. So maybe a put down to Yalta, maybe a put down to Marokva, and we'll come to in a moment. So, but by the way, just tell you, before I come to the real answer, I'll tell you there's a shaila that's found in the Sefer, in a Shemoneh-esrei and Shuvas Torah Shema, by Rav Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. It's an interesting question. A real case that happened. There was a person who had a set. Echad hayal set b'veiso. He had a set in his house. He would take care of this set, and a set is a lamb. He had a lamb, a baby lamb. He treated it like his pet, right? And every day he would dress it up. He would wash it and make it nice and so forth. Pam achat kasav alav chaveru. His friend got angry at him and said to him, "V'chi zehu Rabbi Ploni ben Ploni. You think the sheep is like our rabbi? Right? You're treating the sheep like better than you treat the rabbi here." So that's what he said to him, right? Now,
that's a good line.
That's a great line. Because, you take care of the sheep every day. So the Rav who was named in this insult, he got very upset. He was mavhikbid. V'yesh chachamim amu sharoi lekonto lanisha advarim elu shem shezilzu b'kavod Rav. Okay, you're right. So in other words, they thought that he's putting down the Rav, he's insulting the Rav, he should get some kind of punishment. Shomar l'zeh says shu k'mo Rav. And even though he said it, Belashon Tema, he says, are you treating it like a rabbi? Im kozot choshiv kamei zilzul. It's considered a zilzul. So they write a letter to Rav Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. What should they do? So his tshuva is, of course, Ein b'dvar me'ele mishum zilzul b'zoyin l'rav. There's no zilzul. You guys are out of it, okay? Ubechinam hikbid a rav. And the rav is getting excited for no reason. Yan, ki nimsa kazot the Gemara rucha b'Shabbos k'nandala. Basically, what's our Gemara? Amalei Rav Chistam, Ken asita marukva. You've made the sheep like Marukva. Never heard that Marukva are excited, right? And so forth and so on. Therefore, everything should be well. Okay, so this actually did come up in some, even though we reject. In other words, even though we reject that this is the reason, but the rejection is because you're treating the sheep too well.
Right.
So you see, using this expression is not really meant to be a pejorative of the Rav. It's simply meant to show that you're over-treating the animal itself. So therefore, we've offered two possibilities, both of which we've rejected. It's not going to be because the animal lost its wool. It's not going to be because the animal is giving birth. Ella Amarav Huna. Okay? Brand new reason. Okay, Eitz echad yesh bekarchei hayam. There's some kind of very rare tree that exists in some kind of islands over the sea. Who knows where they are? Greek islands, Italian islands, Spanish islands. Not clear. V'chanun shmo, and the name of the tree is called Chanun. That's going to tie in why we're calling this Chanunos. Umavian kisam, and they bring a chip of this tree. It has a special kind of ameliorative effect. Umanichin la b'chotma. And you put the chip of wood in the nose of the sheep. Okay?
This is the ewe now.
Of the ewe, right? And kadesh tit ashesh. In order that it'll cause the sheep to kind of sneeze. It's an irritant. It's really not an ameliorant. It's not really a helping kind of piece of wood. The piece of wood is such, maybe it's pungent, that it causes the animal to sneeze it out. And when it sneezes it out, are you ready for this? V'yiplu darne rosha. And all the parasites in its head will kind of be sneezed out. All the parasites that inhabited the sinuses and whatever the cavities are up there. That's what they believed.
But I guess only applied to females.
Well, the Gemara is going to ask that in a moment, okay? Because the Gemara is going to ask that. So at any rate, this is what it really is. Now, this kind of chip you can't put in the nose, right? Because I guess it's a rare chip of wood. You have to import this all the way from the Karchei Yam. And eventually, I guess it could be reusable. If it got sneezed out, you want to put it back in case you get a second round of those parasites, or maybe use it for the next sheep. I don't know. So the concern was you couldn't go out with this thing in the nose on Shabbos.
Oh, and it's imported too. It's not a.
I said it's not nearby.
It's a valuable
That's
thing.
right. So the Gemara is asking the obvious question, as Moshe asked, what about the rams? Don't they have these things? So we shouldn't just be for use, for Rechelim, which says Rechelim can't go out Chanunos. It should be any type of sheep. So the Gemara says, and once again, please don't tell me that it doesn't make sense to you, because I can't respond to that. They're seeing that the rams attack each other and bang their heads together with their rams. Memela Noflin. So the parasites, the worms will pop out because they get dislocated from where they're hanging on in the sinuses. I don't know parasites. I don't know sheep parasites. I don't know where they are. But they look. We all have sinuses, right? And you get a sinus infection. It's really not fun, right? Hopefully you don't have parasites in your nose. Okay, we don't live in a world with parasites, but worlds where they do live in parasites, who knows? Maybe these things could exist. Okay, so that's one answer. There's a variation on this answer. Shimon the Nazir, I don't know who he is. Amar, Kisma the Risma. This is a Kism is a chip of risma wood, rosem wood. They translate it as
juniper, but I don't think
okay, juniper. They say
ROSEM.
I don't know what kind of tree that is. I don't know what that is.
ROSEM.
Right. So it's the same story. It's the same thing, except the tree is not called Chanun. The tree is called Rosem. Or juniper, whatever tree it is.
What's the difference?
Okay, so the Gemara says, now what's the difference to you and me? You got to get the right tree. So the Gemara says, but wait, now we understand. Bishlama the Rav Huna, the first way we interpreted that we said it's called Chanun tree. Hainu the Kotane Chanunos. I understand why it's called Chanunos. El Rabbanan, but according to Rabbanan, I think it means the Rabbanan is Shimon the Zero.
Right.
Okay, or no, I'm sorry, no. But the Rabbanan is the earlier answers. The earlier answer is about putting on the padachto and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
the
why
first
did they
answer,
call it?
I think, my chanunos. Why they call chanunos? The avdina lehu milsa dem rachmin alayhu. We're doing something that's been rachmin to the animal.
So
that's what
chanun
it's called. Chanun rachum, chen, chanun, and so forth. So those are the two possibilities. Possibilities are you putting it on the animal either for shearing or for giving birth, or if you think that's too extreme, then it was about putting this up in the nose to shake out the worms that are there. Okay, so far so good. Moving right along. Okay, not too much really to add to all this kind of stuff here, and right. Okay, and the last one here. Oh, not the last one. I'm sorry. Before that, this is the training yoke. V'eno egel yotze begimon. My egel begimon. What is it? I'm Rav Huna bar Nira. I'm Rav Elazar. My mashma the high gimon lishna the mechef. Doesn't really tell you. Did I skip this? My egel, the gimon, right? I'm Rav Huna bar Nira, I'm Rav Elazar. My mashma, the high gimon, lishna the mech. My mashma, I'm not sure how to read this now.
Well, here he doesn't have any.
I think it's all one line. My mashma, the high gimon, lishna the mechav. How do you know that gimon means to be bent over? Because that's what the yoke is actually doing. So it doesn't really have a black and white. What is it? It is this. The Gemara assumes what it is, and it's explaining what's really the derivation of the word is. So how do we know the word gimon, which is this training yoke for the little egel, that it means bent over? Dichsiv. This is from Yeshayahu. This is the Haftorah for, I believe, of Yom Kippur, right? Where hatzom hakotzom zev chorehu. Right, Patech Charvus Resha. Do you think this is really the fast that Hashem wants? That you bring karbanos and you pretend to be righteous and you do all the frumkeit and everything else. You want to know what the real tzom is? The real fast is when you open up the dungeons of injustice and you treat the people and the yasam and the alman and feed all the people and so forth. Correct. So the pasuk there says halakuf ka'agamon rosho. Agamon is a fish hook. It's a hook. So do you bend your heads over? Like your head over, like agamon, like a fish hook. And those Yeshaya is saying, you think you're really doing the real tzom. You're bending your head over, like you're bowing your head when you say Oshamnu and so forth. You're bending your head over like a hook is bent over.
Right.
You think that's the real tzom? No, you guys have got it all wrong. That's the outwardness of religiosity that's not really being carried out by the inwardness of social justice. Okay? So that you see at any rate that the word kalakuf, right, which is the word for agamon is the hook, and that's related to the word gimon.
Right.
That's the response here. So the word in Hebrew that Yeshayahu uses, agamon, becomes related to this training yoke that forces the animal to bend its head, which is called gimon. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, v'lo par ba'ara kupar. Okay, one and two more pieces, and then we'll come right to the agadatza. The par doesn't go out with the ara kupar. This we had a whole discussion what kind of animal this was. The avdilah that you make this kind of you protect. You put the ara kupar over the dadim. The avdilah kehechid lo met limtsuye yali, in order that the yali don't suck on the teats of the udder. That's what it means. Lemtsui is lematzeit, just to suck on them. Now, what are these yali? So Rashi says yali is says Rashi aluka. Aluka is our what I call them leeches. Aluka are leeches. Okay, and Rashi gives the French word. Oh, Jonathan.
Sensu.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Leech.
Yes, he doesn't know. Okay, we've learned here that much of the old French is not French. Okay, okay, I don't know how you say leech in Polish, right? But Tosfos points out that of course it's right there. Shanshu. Okay. So Rashi says that's what it is, and Tosfos says that can't be right because first of all, leeches really only leech onto blood.
No.
But they're
well, yeah, they leech on.
They leech on. They suck the blood out.
Water? Are they water things?
So fine. So the para is in the swamp. The para is in the swamp. The para is grazing us wherever it is.
Okay.
It's not unreasonable that it's not unreasonable that there are leeches. There are probably leeches.
Absolutely.
But Tosfos says leeches are not looking to drink the milk off of the udder.
Right.
No, they want blood.
They want blood. That's what Tosfos says. Tosfos says leeches, alukas, are going after the dam. And second of all, we never find that leeches are called yali. They're called aluka. It's a different word. We find leeches talk about many gemaras. It comes up again. So therefore, Tosfos says that what is exactly this kupar skin really protecting it from? So Tosfos says it's protecting it from other kupars, whatever the kupar is, hedgehog, or to be determined if it's another kind of animal that we can run down. Okay.
I could bring a Slifkin book. Look it up.
We'll look it up. Okay. Okay, I don't know if Slifkin has this. Slifkin does have every book. Okay, so then next, finally, the case that you've been waiting for. So they can't have the para can't go out with the rope or the strap between its horns. So Ila Rav, this we had discussion earlier on about some of the things. What it was, Ila Rav, it's Bein Lanoi, Bein Lashemer. According to Rav, it's usher whether it's simply even for decorative purposes or to be able to control the animal, because to control the animal is called natiruso your territory. Anybody remember that piece of Gemara we had at the beginning of this parak? Yeah. You can put something to protect the animal, but you can't put an extra in the tirusa. Right. So this kind of, you didn't really need to have like a yoke and some type of rope around it. Plus, you had to have the strap between the horns. That was the Teres Yisera. Or you say it's because even in Noah as well, and according to Shmuel, L'Noi Aser L'Shem Ramut. According to Shmuel, no, the Teres Yisera is okay. So if you're doing it to protect the animal, it's okay. If you're doing it simply for decorative purposes, it's not permissible to do. Okay, now, will the para of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah really enter into here? Okay, here's the story. Paraso Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So the Gemara has a question. Before it asks about why would Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah bak the Chachamim, it asks a question. V'chad the para havile. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah only had one cow. I mean, the cow of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. V'amar Rav, v'amar lem Rabbi Yehuda, amar Rav. Either Rav said it, or Rabbi Yehuda Marav said, Tracer alfe egle have ma'aser Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah mi adre kol shata. Every year, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah used to give meiser behema. So it's 1/10 of his animals. For when, how many did he give meiser? 2,000. Tracer is 12,000. 12,000, which means he had 120,000 heads of cattle. Okay, let's assume that's a guzma. So let's say it's a guzma. We'll accept it's a guzma.
When did he move to Argentina?
But it obviously means, right? It obviously means that he was a rich man and he had various heads of cattle. It surely means he had more than one para, right? And the Mishnah said parato shel This is parotov. It says parato.
Right.
So how could this be? So the Tana, lo shelo hayta el shechinato hayta. It actually was not his cow; it belonged to his shechina, which is his female neighbor. It's goes out of his way to tell you it wasn't a male neighbor, it was actually the lady next door. Umitoch shelo michaba nikres al shmo. And because she had this Nebuch one cow, Rav Elazar ben Azariah lived next to her, and he never told her, you can't let the cow go out in the Rishus HaRabim with the Ritzua.
What's mechaba?
He didn't stop her. He didn't stop her. He didn't stop her from going out with this. So therefore, because he didn't stop her, and she continued to do the Avera with her cow unwittingly, it's his Avera. It's his Avera. Okay?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Because he didn't tochiach at Amitecha.
He didn't forget Tochach. He didn't help her. He didn't correct it.
He knew the law, right?
Right, and that's he knew the law. He should have told her what it is. And this is going to open this whole discussion now into the Agadata about what? About the responsibility you have for other people. That if you see some person doing something wrong, that you have to tell them, or you should tell them, and so forth. Now you're going to say, well, what if we know they don't know? They're not going to listen. Right?
But there is a rule that
there is a rule, which the Gemara is not going to talk about, because the Gemara is assuming. Well, because the Gemara is going to give all kinds of cases from the Bible and so forth,
right,
which the Gemara assumes you would have listened, right? But if you know they're not going to listen, and it may be grounds to say mutav shu shogim valyu mazidim.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we don't know that about Rav Elazar ben Azariah's neighbor.
Oh no,
she was a poor little old lady, right? Only drove the cow once a week to shul. We have no reason to suspect that she was amazed. She knew about this, right? Absolutely. She didn't know about it, and he just never bothered to tell her. He says, it's only a drabon, and whatever the reason is. Okay, so just to point out before we get into the Sagadata, Tosas has an interesting question. Look at this. There's a long Tosas on the page on the right side, the fourth Tosas. Tosas goes through a bit of history here. Tosas says, if you look at how old Rav Elazar ben Azariah was, and you trace how old he was when he says Harei Nikav and Shivim Shon, and you go back and forth, Tosas says that probably when the Beis HaMikdash was around, Rav Elazar ben Azariah probably couldn't have been more than a bar mitzvah. And maybe even younger. Okay, so in other words, first of all, how could he be the one, right, to be responsible? Well, first of all, we don't know. He told the neighbor later on, right? But it means we know he's giving meiser on his animals, right? And we do know for a while that there was a time where they gave meiser on animals, even though the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and they simply let them graze. Okay, then they stopped it after a while because there was no Beis HaMikdash, it wasn't coming back. So it did go on for a bit of time. So you'd have to say this happened after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, before they stopped giving maisros. And it means that Rav Elazar ben Azariah had these many cows, and he wasn't 14, 15, or 13. He may have been upper teens.
Right.
So he was already of age, and he could have these large flocks, and he inherited them from his parents or whatever. And the Romans, who destroyed everything they could see when they came to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, somehow managed to leave all these flocks of Rav Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, or that's one suggestion that Tosfos has. Or the other suggestion that Tosfos has is that he was much younger, and this might have been still before the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and he had an apotropos. He was an orphan. His parents had died. He had some court-appointed trustee. So in other words, we don't know the age in the story. If you look how the story is told, all that we know is Rav Elazar ben Azariah had many flocks. And they would give, from his flocks, he would give meiser. So if he was a youngster, and he was 10, 9, 8, or 7, or something like that, and he had a what do you call it, not an appointee, a trustee, a guardian who was looking after this, it was still his entitle. His in the title to own the animals, but the trustee was the one who was actually doing it. So the story can come together.
He is one of the Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right?
Yeah.
He's the one, or one of the ones who helped him get out of Yerushalayim.
Possibly, I don't remember.
And then he goes to Yavne.
Rav Elazar ben Azariah goes to Yavne. Yes, I don't remember if Rav Elazar ben Azariah is in that story. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai goes to Yavne.
Well, I assume goes with his Talmidim, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is one of his Talmidim.
Maybe he was a Talmud later on. I don't know. If he says he was 14 or 15, because after Churban Abayis, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was still the Nasi for about, Tosfos says, for 1 or 2 years, and he made all these takanos. And then afterwards, Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi for 2 or 3 years, and then Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became the Nasi. And that's when the case comes up. He says, and he wasn't 70 years. Correct, yeah, correct. and he was, and Tosfos goes back to stories in Brachos to point out, make the kind of situations work with numbers. But the bottom line is, he's clearly, if you assume that to be, it's kind of stretching it. The other thing that Tosfos suggests at the very end of Tosfos, he quotes from Baal Tosfos, quotes Rav Elchanan, that says the meiser that he was giving was meiser for animals that were really were pressed into service for the king. So these may not have even been his animals, which makes the story difficult. Why they were his animals? Maybe they took his animals and they absconded with them, or they reallocated them to the king. It's called Arnona Lamelech, and therefore, but he was still his animals. He still was giving truma. He was still looking after them, and he had mice to give them. The story is not that clear. But the bottom line is, Tosfos, the story is not rejected. We accept the story that Rav Eliezer was a rich guy, and if it is a guzma about it, he had 120,000 animals to give up 12,000 meiser. It does mean that he had more than one parah. So the Gemara comes to the conclusion, this is one of the famous Gemaras that's quoted, that therefore Rav Eliezer ben Azai was called his parah. The Mishnah calls it his parah. Right. It identifies it as his parah, and that's why he's not really bucking. You all want to know, how could he buck the Chachamim? Right. Because the Mishnah says Shelo b'Ratzon Chachamim. Right. So what does it really mean? It means he didn't tell the lady not to go out with her, which was Shelo b'Ratzon Chachamim. Right. The Chachamim would have wanted him to tell his next door neighbor to go out. That's probably how you'd have to read the Mishnah. That's how. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's the key to it. So we have just a few minutes to kind of begin this piece of Agadah. Once again, this Agadah is really, I told you, is going to take us all the way to the end of the parak. We got 4 full sides coming up, big heavy pages. It's good stuff. It's real serious Agadah. Okay, and it's a good topic. You'll see. So let's start the Agadah. So where am I? We're on, counting from the bottom, 2, 4, 6, 8 lines in the bottom. Right, 7 lines in the bottom. Okay, 6 lines in the bottom. Rav Chanina, Rav Yosef, Rav Chaviva, Masna Bekula say the Moed. So the question is, who says it? Rav and Rav Chanina, or Rav Yochanan and Rav Chaviva? Kol Kagavna Chalf Chalufei, Rav Yochanan Mayad Rav Yonasan. Every time you have these kind of cases, Rav Yochanan gets flipped to become Rav Yonasan. So who says it's not that clear, but what do they say? Here's the key line. Kol mi shev shalimchos lanshe beito v'lo micha, nitpas al anshe beito. If you could put... Where am I?
Call me. How far down? Call me.
Right, okay, call me. Right. Anyone who could have stopped the people of his household from doing something wrong and did not, right? He is nitpas, he is grabbed. He's responsible for their sin. So if he's like a head of a household, and these people in his house are doing something incorrectly, he can't say, I'm going to do what I want to do, and the people do what they want to do. He's responsible because he has the power. Right. The Anshe Yiro, the person has the power for Anshe Yiro, for his whole city, and he sees people in the city doing something wrong, and he doesn't stop them. So what? So Nitpas, Rashi says Nitpas means Ne'nash. He's punished. Al Anshe Yiro is punished for the whole city. Oh boy. Yeah, that's right. B'chol olam kulo, if he could control the entire world, Donald Trump. And he doesn't. Nitpas alanj al kol olam kulo. I'm not even quite sure that is. Maybe Kim Jong. Okay, now nitpas al kol anshe olam kulo. So then he's responsible. He's punished for the entire world. So now who could this be? So of course this could be like a melech or a nasi for the Jewish people. It's not the entire world. It means all the Jews throughout the world. Doesn't really mean the United States and Europe and so forth. So therefore, the Gemara says, Rav Papa says, Vahani debei Reish Galusa, the house of the Reish Galusa. Who's the Reish Galusa?
We just said before.
The Rosh HaGalut.
Rabbi Gamliel.
Well, no, that's the Nasi. That's the Nasi. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. The Reish Galut.
One of the 3 things that Rabbi Yochanan and Zachai asked for.
Shilshel Rabbi Gamliel.
Right, and Rabbi Gamliel was from Beis David.
Correct. But he's not called the Reish Galut, he's called the Nasi. The term of the leader of the Jewish community in Israel is called the Nasi. Right. The political leader in Bavel was called the Reish Galut, Rosh HaGalut. Okay? And for those who feel that's a word that they don't recognize, open up your Kompurkum and you ask for Reishe Galvasa, which is the plural of Galusa. Okay? So at any rate,
they had real control.
They did have real control. I believe Marukva was a Rosh Galusa. Okay, I thought it's not just simply he was a scholar; it was a Rosh Galusa. So it was really making fun of Marukva. So sometimes, by the way, the Rosh Galusa was a Talmud Chacham in the days of Gemara. Sometimes he wasn't, but he understood that he had to respect the decisions of Chazal. So if you are the household of the Rosh Galusa, you're one of the henchmen, you're one of the nobility of the Rosh Galusa's house, and the Rosh Galusa, by the way, also came from David. That's what you're trying to say. So the Rosh Galusa also was of the lineage of David. So Nitpas al Kuli Alma. He's going to be punished for all of the entire world. Okay?
World of Babel.
You're responsible. That's what it means to be a politician. You make decisions that affect everybody. And let's just kind of get to the top of the next page. Kihad Yam Rav Chanina. What does it say? Ma'idach Siv Hashem b'mishpat yavo or yavi im ziknei amo v'sarav. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring to mishpat the Zekanim and the Sarim. Okay, so there's a Sarim are like, if you have Sarim, so I understand the Sarim may have done things wrong, but the Zekanim, the elders, what could HaKadosh Baruch Hu have mishpat against the Zekanim of the Sanhedrin? Rashi feels Zekanim means Sanhedrin. So, im Sarim chatu, if the political leaders did sins, Zekanim chatu, what could the Zekanim do? Ela ema al ha-Zekanim shelo-michu basarim. But the Zekanim who didn't stop the political leadership from sinning, from making errors, from making mistakes, they have their responsibility because they were the Supreme Court, they were the supreme religious leadership, they were the supreme theocratic leadership, and therefore they have this responsibility. So that'll take us up to here, and in fact we'll see in the story that we'll start with next week, we have a case that comes up with Rav Yehuda, who had some woman who was yelling at him because she didn't like his psak, and he told her to go away, and they said, Rav Yehuda, why aren't you afraid of what's going to happen if you chase this woman away? He says, I don't have to be afraid of this. The people on top of me have got to be afraid of this. The Rosh Galusa has got to be afraid of me because any problem they have with me as a local judge, they're going to take upstairs. And the buck stops up there. So we'll talk this more next week, but you see there's a whole piece of Agadah that deals really with the idea of Kol mi sheyesh lo, what's the pause again? Kol mi sheyesh limchos, v'lo micha nitfas al Hashem beis. Of course, now the key word is efshar that you can, correct. Okay, yeah.